Hey everyone, All Sports 83 sporting another video for you, and today's video is about some of the things that I would like to see in NASCAR Heat 4 or in future NASCAR Heat games. Before we get started though, I have a couple of quick disclaimers, and the first one is that this is not a detailed list. Now, you might be thinking of certain things that should be on this list, and they probably should be, but I just wanted to hit some highlights and maybe really just think about some things that not a lot of other YouTubers have thought about, or not a lot of things that I've seen in other YouTube videos. This is a different type of list, but still things that I think are very important for the game. Second disclaimer is that I'm not going to be talking about any physics or graphics or damage model in this video. 704 Games have received plenty of communication from fans, be it YouTube or email, about they'd like to see that improved in the future of NASCAR Heat. So I'm not going to mess with that. I think that 704 Games has gotten the picture on that one. I think they're going to work on that. We know that they have the new engine that's going to be coming out in NASCAR Heat 4, so I don't think I need to worry about that. I'm going to stick to my own unique perspective on things that should be added or improved in future NASCAR Heat games. And one last thing before we get into the list, I emailed this list to 704 Games and they did send a response to me. So if you stick around toward the end of the video, I'm going to read to you their response to me about this specific list. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. Alright guys, you've waited long enough, let's get right into the list. And number one for me is the weekend experience. As you know, the process for career mode is pretty cut and dry in terms of scheduling for the NASCAR Heat games. Pretty much if you're in one series or two series, you'll race and practice and qualify each of those series separately. But that's not really how it works in real life. You may go from the truck race to Xfinity qualifying or practice, and then you may go into Cup qualifying, and that's just one day. So I think that we should see a better scheduling system in career mode. I think it would really help the feel of realism for career mode. Also, I would like to see limitations placed on drivers who want to race in multiple series. As you know, in real life, if you race in the Cup Series, you can only race so many races in the Xfinity or Truck Series. So I'd like to see that part be inserted into the game. Currently, if you want to race some Xfinity races while you're a Cup driver, you have to race the entire schedule. And that can be pretty daunting, especially when you're in the middle of your Cup career and you want to focus on that. And you just want to practice other tracks, or you want to make it feel as though like the real drivers do, you want to just jump into some of those Xfinity races, but in the current games, you have to race the entire season. So I'd like to see them insert that, a little bit of a real-life rule into the game, and then you can maybe do like a 3-race contract for the Xfinity Series or a 7-race contract for the Truck Series, something like that, so that, again, you're inserting a little more realism into the career mode. Lastly, for the weekend experience would be some sort of opportunity for players to interact with the fans and the media, even like a press conference session where you're asked questions and you have 3 or 4 answers that you can choose from, and that would shape how other fans and other drivers would see you throughout your career. I know that other games have included this feature, and it's been pretty successful and been pretty popular with fans of those games. So I'd like to see something like that added into NASCAR Heat 4 or future NASCAR Heat games, just to, again, adding to the realism of the race weekend experience during career mode. Okay, number 2 on my wish list is pre-race ceremonies. And I want to go ahead and say that I think 704 Games have laid a very good and solid foundation for this concept with their track introduction clips in career mode for the Cup Series. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. It kind of gets you geared up to race that race, and I just love these videos. You're seeing some examples of that here in this video, but I love the realism behind this concept, and I think that 704 Games has laid a really good foundation for this. However, I would like to see this concept grow. Maybe the announcers talk about the fastest cars in practice, or the person who qualified on the pole, or maybe say something about the player, and maybe what they say is based on what was said in the press conference session. Also, maybe you physically have to start your engine when prompted by your spotter, or you hear something with the flyover the national anthem, just some of these features that are in real life. Again, we're bringing more realism into the game with this concept or this idea. On to number 3 on my wish list, and it's actually something that I said I wouldn't talk about, but I can't help myself. It has to do with the damage model, but it's not really the wrecking itself, but I'd like to see where a car is involved in a wreck, and then after it's been repaired, there's actually tape or something that makes it look like the crews have worked on it. Currently in the game, when you go into the pit road and you repair your damage, it completely fixes the car, which is obviously unrealistic. And other games in the past, it's been one of those deals where the damage may stay the same, it just helps the function of the vehicle. But really, I'd like to see some tape across the grill, or parts of the car has been cut off because it's just no longer useful, and it's going to create more debris and cautions and things like that. So I'd just like to see like what the aftermath of the crew working on the car would look like in these games. I think again, we're helping the realism. That's kind of the theme of this video, really. And so really, when you get into the damage model, I'd like to see the aftermath. Okay, moving quickly to number 4 on my wish list, and that is pit stops. Now, this is one of the most important, if not the most important thing on this list for me, because pit stops are such an important part of NASCAR. You can win or lose a race based on what happens on pit road. Right now, gamers are relegated to just one job in terms of pit road. Get to pit road speed before you cross the line, and then pretty much at that point it's just a cutscene, and there's really nothing else you can do to make your pit stop better. So I'd like to see more than just getting down to pit road speed. I'd like to see maybe a sequence of buttons, like a quick time event, to make sure your pit stop is a little faster, and if you mess those up, your pit stop's a little slower. I know that they did this in 2000 NASCAR game, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Even as a young guy, I really appreciated that part of the game. It made my pit stop quicker if I could hit those buttons in the right sequence. Maybe also you could do something like steering the car on pit road. Maybe you don't control the speed, that would be very difficult, but you can steer the car, avoid other cars on pit road, or make sure you get in your box properly so that your pit stop is quicker or doesn't get slowed down for any reason. So I hope this is something they can add into the game. I think it would be revolutionary for NASCAR racing in these games, because pit road, again, it's so important to make sure that it's important for the driver, and it can make or break your race. And I think that that's such an important part of career mode. It's such an important part of any race. I'd really like to see them build on this and really make pit road an important part, an important aspect of the game. So last thing on my list is paint booth. And I know that a lot of other YouTubers and a lot of other fans have communicated with 704 Games about this issue or this aspect of NASCAR racing. And I know that I like to say that I'm trying to think outside the box and think about things that other people aren't thinking about. But this one is just so important. I mean, that's what video games are all about. Imagination and creating something that's your own. And that's exactly what Paint Booth does in NASCAR. But in addition to that, it does it without eliminating the realism of NASCAR. That's one of the few areas where the player can take control without making the game goofy or without getting rid of real aspects of NASCAR. So this is such an important part of the NASCAR gaming community, and I know that 704 Games is thinking about it. I know that they're trying to work toward having a full paint booth, but it's on this list because it is so important. I still play the older games because of the paint booth. I have so much fun just creating cars, and so I know that the NASCAR community, the video gaming community, they are very much wanting this aspect in the next NASCAR Heat game. I know 704 Games knows that, but still, it's so important I put it in this list. So that's it. That is my list of 5 things that I would love to see come out in the next NASCAR Heat 4 game or the next NASCAR Heat game. And you guys tell me in the comments section what you think. Are the things that you think are more important, less important? Just let me know what you think of my list and what you'd like to add or how you'd replace it or what you'd like to see. Now, as promised, I told you at the beginning of the video that 704 Games did respond to my email, and so I want to share with you real quick what they said, and we'll take it just a minute to break down exactly what they said. I did receive this response very quickly, like 2 days after I had emailed them, and it says this: "Thanks for continuing to reach out to us with your feedback. You've got some really big ideas and definitely think these are things we are all on the same page for future games, but they will also include quite a bit of depth development, so no guarantees that these will be options we see in the next game." So this introductory paragraph really just feels like a little bit of the bad news, because basically they're saying that some of the things on my list aren't even on their radar, which I understand. It's kind of a little bit of a different type of list, so I get it. I wasn't too upset with what they said. I just appreciated that they responded. But the next paragraph gets a little more encouraging when they say, "We have looked into different options for pre-race ceremonies, and I think this will be something you will see a variation of in future games. But I will say 3, 4, and 5 are what we always want to spend the most of our time on." Now, what they mean by 3, 4, and 5 are 3, 4, and 5 on my list. If you know, that's going to be the racing, pit stops, and paint booth. Now, I didn't talk much about the racing, but when they included pit stops in the things that they're focusing on, I got really, really encouraged, because that might be one of the most important things to me. It is the most important thing to me, that along with the paint booth. And they included paint booth in their list of things that they really want to focus on. So that was really, really encouraging. And the last paragraph was really just a summary of the email, and they added a couple of new things, so I'll just go ahead and read it to you. It says, "Each time we release a game, we try to focus heavily on the racing, AI, pit stops, drafting, and tracks. It's important for us to keep the game as authentic as possible, but also fun and challenging. We will continue to update these elements in the future games, and we appreciate your time and attention to help us make better games for years to come." So that's it, guys. That was the response. It was pretty encouraging. I know there was a couple things on my list that weren't on their radar, and that's fine. I know that my list was a little different than others, but really, their response was really neat. I thought it was really cool. But you guys can let me know in the comments section what you think of 704 Games' response and how you interpret that response and what you think they're focusing on and how that may affect future games as it comes out, especially NASCAR Heat 4 that should be coming out sometime this year. I don't know if it's coming out this year. I haven't seen any release on that or any kind of information on it, but I would assume it's going to come out sometime this year, just like last year's game did. So let me know what you think down below. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and until next time, we'll see you later, guys. Have a good one.